particular, the second day of February 2024. Leo niko solo and flying solo music really Stanley Nyeringita quite a lot to take a look at this particular morning right now from 6 a.m. all the way to 10 a.m. It's a Friday, so definitely some music and good vibes and inshallah. But before that, we'll be having a very important discussion. So last week on Saturday, thousands of rights groups from different parts of the country staged protests and peaceful protests to call for the end of femicide. But interestingly, men were there shoulder to shoulder together with the women who were, at the forefront of this particular, protests. So this morning we talk about the role of women when it comes to this conversation ending femicide in Kenya. What is the role of women? And we're asking you this morning. Also, what do you think the government should do to curb the mysterious deaths of women in Kenya? We'll be getting to that later on. Let's take a look at the weather and how cold or hot it might really be. There it is. It feels like 16 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit chilly this morning, but it promises to get a little hotter. As hot as 27 degrees Celsius, getting into about 5 p.m. Chances of it, there might be some light showers as of now. This is probably around Nairobi region that it is. Let's take a look at the roads this morning. And, well, not much activity happening. Granted, it's a Friday, so if you're probably just waking up right now and you want to see which roads to avoid, let me highlight one road here that, has a red spot and also a yellow one. So this is the Haile Selassie Avenue, just before you actually hit that roundabout. But that's where the whole Easy Coach bus station is, just getting there. That probably is the whole bus terminus, so nothing to worry about. Other place to look at real quick. Well, interesting lot. All of them looking green. We'll be getting into that as well later. Let's take a look at the headlines and what to expect. We do start off with the Standard. Yes, surprise order on IEBC bosses, splits leaders. That's the screaming headline on the Standard to the Daily Nation, I believe. Riddle of free school. All right, we'll be getting into that. Also, CJ Kome and siege on, or as some say, siege on matters education, also forming the big news on People Daily, CBC, a ticking time bomb. That's the People Daily. Kwenye Taifa Leo, elimu ya bure wapi, masuala elimu yaendelea kuangaziwa on that. Let's also now take a look at the highlights this particular morning and start off with the recent incident that happened midnight in Embakasi. And so far, what we have is that at least 2 people have died following a midnight explosion at a gas filling station in Embakasi, Nairobi. 167 victims have so far been treated at Mama Lucy Hospital in Nairobi with many inhalation injuries. 7 of the critically injured victims have been referred to Kenyatta National Hospital, KNH, and 17 others to Kenyatta University Hospital. And murder suspect John Matara held for the gruesome murder of socialite Starlet Ohu at a short stay rental apartment in South Bay, Nairobi, will today appear in court for the benching of his case when the DPP is expected to charge the suspect in the High Court. That is what to expect today. Right, and that particular story on the fire incident in Embakasi, and that we'll be following up on that, just telling you what to expect even as we continue with this particular show. So definitely stick around for that. Right, just a reminder also that is a developing story. We'll be following up on that as well, just to tell you what the police department say on the same, and also a whole, whatever the government says. As of midnight, the government spokesperson Isaac Mora had advised the public not to go around that area for evacuation and all that procedure. But let's get into the news diary and what to be expecting in our subsequent bulletins. This morning, President William Ruto is in the Western region for a 4-day tour, which began yesterday on Thursday. So Ruto is set to tour various counties of the region, among others, launch the various affordable housing projects. And we do expect him to also be in Kakamega County as of today. Meanwhile, today is World Wetlands Day. It is celebrated every year on Saturday. So this day marks the date of the adoption of the Convention on Wetlands on the 2nd of February 1971 in the Iranian city of Ramsar on the shores of the Caspian Sea. So the theme for this year is wetlands and human well-being. So in Kenya, the event will be held at Lake Narasha. We'll also be highlighting that for you. A couple of highlights on our news diary. We'll be focusing also on matters sports. First off, 2 times African champion Ferdinand Omanyala will today lead other Kenyan athletes to participate in the elite indoor track Miramas meeting in France. Meanwhile, the East Africa Local Authorities Cultural Association, or if you prefer, Alaska Games, which are currently unfolding in Kisumu, will be concluding today. So the competitions, which began on the 25th of January, covered a vast range of sports, including soccer, netball, leg ball. Didn't know there's such a game, by the way, leg ball. Tug of war, cultural dance, folk song, choir, volleyball, table tennis, badminton, among others. And finally, also matters sports today. So the whole preparations and registrations for the 3rd edition of the Sirikwa Cross-Country World Cross-Country Tour Gold, which is going to be happening tomorrow on Saturday, underway at the Lobo Village in Kapseret, Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County. So this cross-country happening tomorrow will be featuring 10 kilometers senior women and also men, 6 kilometers under 20 women, 8 kilometers under 20 men, as well as 2 kilometers men and women. In courts today, at the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court, the former Export Processing Zone EPZ CEO Richard Mutule and James Maingi will be appearing before this court for the judgment of the case where they're charged with fraudulent acquisition of public property, abuse of office, as well as embezzlement in that space in EPZ. That is the news diary for you. Let's take a look at today in history. What happened 2 years ago? In 2022. So Guinea-Bissau on Saturday launched a major investigation into a foiled attempt to overthrow President Umaro Sissoco Mbalo, who survived a gun attack and the uprising that claimed 11 lives. And in 2019, the movement for the rebirth of Cameroon, MRC party, called off demonstrations planned in several cities following a government ban on the protests. That is today in history for you. Let's dive in magazetini sasa. Right, kama kawaida, we do start with the standard and take a look at what is happening. The surprise order on IEBC bosses splits leaders. They call it, or rather they ask, beginning of the end. Leaders sharply divided on the implication of court judgment, with some saying it spells doom for the National Dialogue Report, and others insisting that the talks addressed wider issues not addressed in the court case. And there's a quote there by Jubilee Secretary General, that is Jeremiah Kioni, and he says the dialogue team is only anchored by way of motion in Parliament and through gazettement. Quote unquote, rather in brackets, the document joins a long list of reports that have ended up wasting public resources and time. The story is focused on this daily. At the very bottom, matters AFCON, favorite teams in quote unquote crazy AFCON. We'll be getting into that on page 36. That is the back page in a few. But let's talk matters sugar now. And Ruto tells of those opposed to leasing of state sugar mills. The lowdown is on page 7, and it says, just a context of this, President William Ruto says the government's plan to lease out struggling sugar farms was in line with improving their efficiency through a radical management shift to return them to profitability. And he was speaking this while in... just to get that right. Well, he continues his tour in the Western region, which began yesterday. So definitely expect more of this sentiments when it comes to the developments of the Western region as of today. On the right, we'll skip Pulse for a minute and see what Pulse is serving us this morning. Let's take a look at matters health on the right scroll. High alert of a red eye disease, and authorities warn Kenyans to keep their hands off their eyes. Outbreak first reported in Lamu and Malindi, spreads with new cases in Kisii and also in Nairobi on page 9. On the very top scroll, MPs furious over housing levy cuts, and legislators are angry lot after their employer slashed 10,500 Kenyan shillings from each of them, despite the court stopping deductions. And what is happening in Nakuru? Goons raid War Memorial Hospital after handover. And let me just pluck out the Pulse magazine. We'll be taking a look at it after matters AFCON. On the back page of the sports, we have the photo there of the Ivory Coast's Jean-Evrard Kwasi, who was reacting in a past match. And they say Nigeria, Ivory Coast, keen not to bite more than they can chew. And they have the Ivory Coast player there biting his lips. And a quote there by South Africa head coach, a win over Morocco is history. Cape Verde are as determined as to reach the semi-finals, and we dare not underrate them. I think one of the biggest highlights of the South African win is how they had to celebrate and imitate Cristiano Ronaldo's win, the whole "see kind of bit. Quite an interesting one there. On the Pulse magazine this morning, matters fashion, face jewelry, and what you really need to know about how to do the whole face jewelry, and also who's the next king. They say underdogs playing in the big leagues. Check out this on pages 8 and 9. Kwenye gazeti la Daily Nation, matters education and also the corridors of justice, making it big on this paper. First off, matters education. They say riddle of free school. So free primary and secondary education introduced in 2003 and 2008 respectively. So surge in enrollment has rescued children from poor families, but hefty levies are undermining its purpose. We have this on pages 4 and 5. They also have a lowdown of the free day secondary school average charges per year. So they have this as lunch, which goes about 13,500 Kenyan shillings, uniform 3,000, reference books, that is dictionary, kamusi, atlas, Bible, and class readers, about 3,000, illegal levies and disguised as development money, 2,000, school activities, 200 bob, a total of 21,700. That is for the free day secondary school average charges. They're saying low government capitation and rising commodity prices forcing new levies. At the mid-scroll, CJ Kome and Siege, as some would say, or Siege, judiciary under attack. The timing of a petition seeking the removal of Chief Justice Martha Koome from office in the middle of a vicious fight pitting the judiciary against the executive and a section of the legislature has set tongues wagging. And the fact that it is coming days after the government lost key court cases further infuriating politicians allied to the ruling coalition is fueling the speculation. We have that on page 7, as well as the photo there of the CJ, Martha Koome. At the bottom scroll, 2 stories are highlighted here. A similar one that was on the Standard Matters housing levy, and opposition MPs want a refund of the housing levy. Meanwhile, 50,000 interns yet to secure public jobs. More highlights focused on the right, Matters terror, return of ruthless Kanjo spreads fear. Okay, Matters football, hosts and Nigeria among favourites in quarterfinals. And if Fred was here, I'd still ask him, how is it that Ivory Coast are still in AFCON and Senegal are not there? Those are just mysterious ways of African football. Meanwhile, DPP sets in motion transfer of Kenyan fugitive to the US. We'll be diving into this conversation later at around 6:30 just to understand for this particular matter, the mysterious, gruesome murders of women. That this particular case is just showing not only even in Kenya, but also happening even in the United States, involving Kenya. What's happening? We'll be diving into that later. On the back page, about 3 stories focused here. First off, it will take us 12 years to clear roads and pending bills. That is according to the PS, State Department for Roads, that is Joseph Mungai Mbugua. On the left, Ukrainian delegation to seek ties with parliament. And at the very top scroll, as obvious, Matters sports, local-based boys power South Africa to the brink of a last 4 appearance in Cote d'Ivoire. That is on the Daily Nation. Tukiingia kwenye masuala ya pesa, kwenye Business Daily, the big fight inside Treasury and CBK. We have plastered the photos of the 3 gentlemen holding the country's money. Njuguna Ndungu, who's the Cabinet Secretary of Treasury, and Haron Sirima, outgoing debt boss, as well as Kamau Thuge, the governor of CBK. The quota number there, 3 billion Kenyan shillings, which is the maximum amount Treasury pays CBK for each debt raised domestically. They also say that office clashes with the CBK on roll, as well as CBK accused of overrunning debt boss. More stories on this paper. On the front page, Cooperative Bank raises daily ATM cash limit to 60,000 Kenyan shillings. And on the ticker, leasing firm Vile put under administration on 1.1 billion default. Matters companies, court stops pay rise for private guards. And just a context of this, so a judge has blocked security firms from implementing a legal notice that nearly doubles the minimum wage for security guards, and firms now holding 70% of total dollar deposits in Kenya. That is on markets on page 14. On the Life Pullout magazine, we have Matters the Smart Broker. Kutoka Business Daily, let's take a look at the Star and what the Star has for you this morning. And they say 2027 race, or as bracketed 27 race, inside Weta's secret political moves. He's said to be beefing up his campaign machine and building, get this, a heavy war chest on pages 4 and 5. And they ask Kingpin, he's acquired a chopper, branded it with party colors. What is cooking, Wetangula? Tell us. At the very bottom, they also have the photo of the man being talked about there. That is Weta, who's the National Assembly Speaker, by the way, as well as, flanked President William Ruto flanked by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, as well as Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu, as well as the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, among other government officials in Naitiri, SA Township Primary School yesterday in Bungoma Bungoma County. Just a reminder also, the President will be in the Western region for the next 3 days as of now. It began yesterday. And they're asking stand students. You probably be wondering what was going through the mind of the student when the President was there, standing in front of the students. Anyway, our other highlights focused on this paper. On the left, minimum wage, CS Bore, that is a Labour Cabinet Secretary, Florence Bore, has disowned a directive by the Private Security Regulatory Authority Chief Executive that private security firms commit within 7 days to pay their guards 10,000 Kenya shillings minimum monthly salary. In matters court verdict, why Ruto-Raila's talks stand on shaky grounds. Meanwhile, white butterflies harmless, expert assures Kenyans. And at the very top scroll, the political pullout, that is, why Raila should run again in 2027 election to succeed President Ruto. That is on the Star this morning. Let me open the People Daily and see what is happening on this paper. Yes, there is CBC, a ticking time bomb. And they say transition learners in grade 9 require environment with furnished laboratories, libraries, and adequate classrooms, which can scroll upwards and see what is happening. Let me just, yes, got it. Libraries and adequate classrooms which are not available. That is according to an expert. He's on page 4. Other highlights focused on this paper. On the left, why petitioner wants Kome out. And in matters business hub, fresh rules for owners to register Airbnb rentals. The very top scroll, as the MPs now demand a refund of housing levy. And at the very top, I think that's purple. Is that purple or blue? Let's say I'm colorblind, but I'd stick to my notion and say that is purple. Tussle over 300 million Kenya shillings mace for Nairobi MCAs on page 7. Right, that is our cue now to dive into other dailies across the borders and see what is happening. To start off with Tanzania and see what is happening in Tanzania. So first off, the Citizen. Experts predict good year for local financial markets, and optimism on Tanzania's financial markets remains high in 2024, with stakeholders and investors anticipating further growth and positive momentum after notable performance in 2023. And they quote a number there, 225 billion. But it's Tanzanian shillings, don't be worried. The value of shares traded at the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange amounted to 225 billion Tanzanian shillings in 2023. They have that on page 2. Meanwhile, Samia wants commercial cases expedited. And they say President Samia Suluhu Hassan has revealed her plan to reform civil justice and urged the judiciary to prioritize commercial cases in line with the pace of investment promotion in the country. Meanwhile, Mwinyi, ministers who opt to quit should be truthful. Tuingie gazeti la Mwananchi na wanauliza pale, wametekwa, wamepotea, wamechapisha picha za ambao wamepotea. Wanasema hao wote wamepotea kwa kudaiwa kutekwa ama kutoweka. Ndugu jamaa wakata tamaa, wadau sasa walibana jeshi la polisi kuwajibika. Vidokezo vingine katika gazeti hili, masuala ya siasa pale chini. Chadema yachora ramani mpya ya maandamano. Masuala ya sukari bado yaendelea kuangaziwa na kuna wakati ambao tulikuwa tunaangalia Tanzania wakisema sukari inauzwa kama bangi. Leo wanasema sukari ya kwama bandarini, makali ya bei pale pale. So I'm curious, does that mean Tanzanians who are watching us right now, do you still, when you're drinking your tea, is it quite a luxury when you're having it? Do you really have to have it with the sugar? The fact that it might be not in the country. Other stories focused there on the very top scroll. Feleshi apigwa butwa, Samia amtwisha zigo. Still in Tanzania, let's take a look at Mwanahabari. And the big story on this paper, Rais Samia agiza kutungwa kwa sera ya usuluhishi, na wadokeza kuwa azitaka mamlaka za sheria kusimamia haki kwa wote bila kujali hali hizo au hali zao za kijamii na kiuchumi. Asema ni wakati mwafaka wa kufanya utatuzi kwa njia ya usuluhishi bila kufungwa na masharti ya kiufundi. Kwingineko, naibu waziri Kapinga asema upungufu wa umeme unazidi kupungua. Masuala ya upungufu wa umeme pia umedokezwa kubwa kwenye pale Tanzania. Hiyo ni gazeti la Mwanahabari. Kwenye gazeti la Wamachinga, Mama Samia Legal Aid Campaign inavyokomboa wanyonge. Vile vile pale upande wa kushoto, TANAPA mikono salama chini ya kamishna Kuji. Kiswahili cha Tanzania pale napaswa ukisome mwendo wa aste aste, usijiume ulimi. From Dodoma tuingie Kampala and take a look at the Daily Monitor. So for the past about 3 days now, Matters Education is big news in Uganda, and this morning they say S1 points needed to join top schools. So the cutoff points, Gayaza High School maintained cutoff mark at aggregate 5, and Tare School capped at aggregate 6, while St. Mary's College Rushoroza cut it off at aggregate 8. In the east, Nabumali High School maintained at aggregate 12, and Wanyange Girls at aggregate 12 on pages 4 and 5. If you remember, early last month, somewhere there, Uganda had released the results of those who had performed well, and also I believe even when last month was ending, they had released the marks for the primary school, and now this in preparations to join for the next cadre of studies. Other stories highlighted on this paper. On the right, government 76 billion Ugandan shillings to combat raging cattle disease. Meanwhile, courts to close ahead of judges' conference. And because it's a Friday, at the very top scroll, they give you a scoop. New sounds we love to hear. Get into that paper and see the kind of sounds Ugandans love to hear. Let me see if the Rwandan Times has updated its paper as of now, and have something for you from Rwanda. The 18-page, right, they do have it. The big story in Rwanda, Rwanda's experience sends a warning to the world. That is according to the President, Paul Kagame. And this is the New Times. Rwandans honor fallen heroes, and they have a photo there of the Prime Minister, Edouard Ngirente, as well as other officials in the government paying tribute to the National Heroes Mausoleum. Other stories, Felicite Nyetegeka's presence was a beacon of light and love, that is according to a former classmate. And also, still matters development really reflected on the front page of Rwanda each and every single time, really. They say 7 firms to invest over Rwandan francs 50 Rwandan francs, 50 billion Rwandan francs in Kabiro Agribusiness Hub. And there's also an opinion there. Rwanda, the comeback kid, born of a series of youth-led revolutions. That is the New Times. And that does it for the newspaper review. We'll be getting into the caricature for you this morning. But remember, we'll also be giving you an update of that Embakasi fire incident that happened around the wee hours of Thursday, getting into Friday morning, and we'll be updating you on that. But let's dive into the papers as we also prepare and cook something for you for that fire incident. On page 16 of the Daily Nation is where you get today's dailies, or rather today's caricature. On the Standard, page 16 also. On page 10, kama kawaida, for People Daily. Let me see if it will have it loading here on my tablet. Let's start off with the Daily Nation. Surprisingly, both Daily Nation and the Standard might be going with the same theme for this morning, that is the housing levy. On your screen is the Daily Nation, and they have a huge ship there, and on top of this ship is the buildings, or the building of Parliament, and just shows is a boat that is holding the small house, which is the 3% housing levy, and it seems as if this house is sinking. And the captain donned in his gear as the National Assembly Speaker, the Moses Wetangula there, trying to save this house from sinking. Another, rather, on page 16 of the Standard, a contrasting kind of caricature. They have the same gentleman. Now here he is wearing a green jacket and a yellow tie and holding a briefcase written housing levy, and he's headed to the Supreme Court of Kenya. Behind him is a common mwananchi asking, what I need is food, not a house. And this gentleman says, it will be messy, noisy, unhelpful, and it will have casualties. Right, we never really have unhelpful, but Gado had to have it there. It will be messy, noisy, unhelpful, and will have casualties, heading to the Supreme Court for you. On your screens, as you can see, some developing story, the Embakasi fire tragedy, even as we do have the People Daily magazine on page 10. Right, so even as we prepare page 10 People Daily for you, right, there you do have it. Trying to understand a foot written Kenyan shillings and on the weighing scale. And they're asking, why are African currencies losing weight? Why are African losing weight? And it's as if the Kenyan shillings actually is probably sick. It has some wadudus on it. And well, speaks largely even on the free fall of the Kenyan shilling. I'm not sure how I call those wadudus in my native language. But my director, Kevo, tells me, how is it called in the Kikuyu language? Dutu. Every day I'm learning the Kikuyu language. Anyway, some update for you on that Embakasi fire accident. So at least 2 people have died following a midnight explosion at a gas filling station in Embakasi, Nairobi. The pictures you're seeing are earlier photos of the wee hours of the morning. And so far, 167 victims, about 167 victims have so far been treated at Mama Lucy Hospital in Nairobi with many inhalation injuries. So far, 7 of the critically injured victims have been referred to Kenyatta National Hospital, KNH, and 17 others to Kenyatta University Hospital. And just to update you also, more will be leading you on that. Right, and just an update also, if you're just joining us right now, if unafungulia TV yako sahi, and so 167 victims have so far been treated at Mama Lucy Hospital in Nairobi on that particular fire incident that happened in Embakasi in the wee hours of this morning. And according to the Embakasi OCPD, there is Wesley Kimeto. 2 people have died from the incident, 1 adult and a minor, as of 4:30 a.m. And 7 of the critically injured victims have been referred to the Kenyatta National Hospital, KNH, and 17 others to Kenyatta University Hospital. Just also to update you, 142 adults and 25 children out of the 167 victims who have been treated to Mama Lucy Hospital. So 142 are adults and 25 are children with many inhalation injuries. Just to update you also, we'll be updating you on this as we continue. Just a reminder also on an interesting bit, on the 12th of September 2011, a similar incident occurred, the Sinai fire, just a few kilometers from today's incident and today's fire tragedy in Embakasi. And those are just earlier amateur footages, we should add, that are taken. Will be, as we continue in the progress of the day, giving you, reporters on the ground, just giving you the coverage of that, and just speaking to the residents who are living there, just to say what actually happened, what actually transpired, and the specifics of what actually happened on that. Most definitely, 2 people have so far lost their lives. We'll be getting the correct numbers as we move on, but then may their souls rest in eternal peace. This morning, we discuss matters the role of men ending, rather the role of men in ending femicide, and we'll be having this 3. Joyce Omahiu, HOC National Chair, Amka Mama Association, as well as CJ Atemo. He's a growth coach, just to tell us for the whole education of men, and also even raising a man and even positioning and repositioning the new age kind of man. How should we be doing that? Also, Maureen Magak, she's a gender justice advocate, HRD, and executive director at Lend a Voice Africa. She was quite vocal in Mombasa last week, Saturday. She'll be telling us how this particular protests were, according to them, on how it was actually. So we're asking you this morning, what do you think the government should do? What do you think the government should do to curb the rising mysterious and gruesome murders of women in the country? What should the government do to end this mysterious murders of women in the country? Talk to us on our socials at TV47KE on Facebook, at TV47 News on X, Nyeringita _. I'd also say a friend in Nimuli, as well as much as he's not here with us, but he's with us in spirit, at Fred Nimuli on X as well. Keep talking to us. We'll be giving you and also opening up our phone lines so that you can also call in live and also SMS us 22047. Talk to us. We really need to have this particular conversation even as we progress into the year as a country. And just to also update you, even as we take a small break, that particular Embakasi fire incident, on that at least 2 people have lost their lives. And this is according to the Embakasi OCPD Wesley Kimeto, confirming that incident. 1 adult and 1 minor lost their lives as of 4:30 a.m. So even as we take a small breather, we leave you with this earlier pictures, earlier amateur footages that happened in the wee hours of the morning. killing women. And this morning, we ask, what do you think the government should do to curb the mysterious deaths of women in Kenya? What do you think the government should do to curb the mysterious deaths of women in Kenya? But largely, we'll also be diving into the role of men when it comes to ending femicide in Kenya. And I'm privileged to be having sharp minds for this conversation. First off, Joyce Omahio, National Chair, Amka Mama Association. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
As well as CJ Atemo, growth coach, well, among others,
yes.
among other hats.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning as well. I'll have both of you introduce yourself, and, as well as Maureen Magak, Executive Director, Lender Voice Africa, joining us via Skype in Mombasa a little bit later on. I'll start with you, Omahio. So who is Omahio, really?
Omahio is, Joyce Omahio is the National Chair, Amka Mama Association. This is an association that was started in 2019. Mm-hmm. Basically, it empowers women in several scopes of life, and particularly in this concern, we facilitated the march that was there in Nairobi last week, okay, against the same subjects that we are discussing. Mm-hmm. And next week we have a march again in Vihiga town, okay, whereby we intend to discuss this same story. Thank you.
Next week, which day?
Around Wednesday or Thursday, once the logistics are right.
Okay.
Yes.
CJ?
Well, CJ Atemo, a husband, a father, a coach, mm-hmm, a trainer, consultant. One of the things that I don't talk much about now, which I've done over the years, is a mentorship program for men called Mandate, which has run for quite a number of years now, about 13 years of that, just mentoring men. Written a book on that as well, an author of about 10 books, and pleased to be here.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right, and definitely also be getting an intro from Magak in Mombasa later on. We'll also be, diving into some data on what has been, happening later on. But then just to have, a brief of it. On Saturday, we did have the match, even as you say, and definitely Amka Mama was, on the front line of this, conversation.
True.
First off, what the outlook of this match, according to you, how was it?
The match was successful. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's only yesterday that we had a communication from the desk of the CJ, even the desk of the CEO Judiciary, mm-hmm, whereby it was pronounced now for the hashtag that victims of that violence should contact. Mm-hmm. This is also the communication from the DCI again this week. Mm-hmm. That was as a result of that match. Mm-hmm. So, were it not for the strong match, the support that we received from several stakeholders, including the media, that communication from both two institutions would not have been mentioned. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was a success story. Mm-hmm. Going forward, even in future, this is something that should periodically be done so that that awareness, that mentorship, that talking is in the public domain so that people now can know whom to talk to and where to go on events that they are aggrieved or otherwise.
Right.
Yes.
And the reason I'm asking this is because nominated Member of Parliament Sabina Sheke, who I'd like us to also listen into what she said earlier on in a few, what she was talking about concerning the protest.
Yes.
But then, so CJ, I don't know if you're also part of the protest, but then from where you sit, the impact of the protests, was it felt?
Well, it was, because it was very public, and there are spaces you wouldn't have gone into because of the match, because of the number of people who were involved, the kind of people who were involved. Then them coming up as well and posting on their social media status. So it created traction. And I think in order to have a conversation, that was very necessary. Once you have traction towards something, then beginning the conversation becomes very easy. And especially when something is organized not necessarily by politicians, and then it can actually pull people together. That captures attention. I think generally, in most cases, governments work where they think they're dealing with people who have stakes in politics, but when the citizenry will come in and marshal themselves and mobilize themselves, that's a whole thing right there. So yes, it was felt. Yeah.
Right. Director, unazanitafutia the soundbite by Sabina Shege, just to have it. Can tell me when we'll be having it ready. But largely, even as we also prepare for it, there was a whole, okay, we do have it. Let's listen in just to hear from the horse's mouth. Let's listen into what she was talking about before we continue.
I'll say they did achieve, but not much, because I would suggest instead of just doing the marches in streets in town, you only get the people who are aware of what they are doing. But if this was organized in universities, in the colleges where they have hostels, or like somewhere like University of Nairobi, I would have gone and called all those girls and talked to them, create awareness, that would have had more impact rather than just going to the street. Because once you go to the street, yes, you do it for the media and everything else, but you don't really communicate much. The best way is to interact with those girls. Let's start mentorship programs where they can be able to talk to. There are girls who are still in hostels, who are traumatized, who have gone through that experience, they don't know who to talk to. But if you give them a chance where they can have even forums, where they can have people come to talk to them, have counseling centers where they can go openly discuss what they go through in college and maybe why they are led to such situations. So the most important is not just a match, but to have forums where we can be able to counsel them. So girls need to know how to work hard and not just looking at money, because when money comes in, you'll have to pay for it. Whichever amount comes in, there's no free money in this world. There's nothing that is for free. The only thing for free is air, and it's given by God. So if you want free rides, you want free money, you'll have to pay for it finally. So the best thing is for the girls to know that you must work hard. Wake up, work hard. If you're in school, complete your school, look for a job, but don't expect that men will be giving you money and then you get it for free. It will not happen.
Right, I'm taking a look at both of your facial expressions, and it speaks volumes because social media went, abuzz when, this particular sentiments by the nominated MP. I'll start with you, Omahi. Basically, just to quote what she talks about, calling for the establishment of counseling forums in universities, and also saying the best way is to interact with those girls. Really saying this protest, as much as the streets, but then the best place they should have been universities, colleges, and high institutions, really, and not in the streets where people don't really even understand what you're doing. Will you agree?
I totally do not agree with the nominated MP. There's no formula, literally, that is defined in law on how you are supposed to address that matter. These are matters that have been going on either silently or otherwise, have not been registered in that parliament where she sits. So her saying that the protest marches were not appropriate, to me, I felt misplaced. The persons who went on the streets were mothers and sisters of mothers for the daughters who've been killed. So again, we decided that much to go and speak for the volumes now from the mother side, not from the students. Mm-hmm. She's addressing the students. Mm-hmm. Basically, when she said that it's only be designated to the premises of the university, my brother CJ has said here, it was a march meant to give message to persons who are not aware. It was not organized by members of parliament. She's a member of parliament. It was not organized by members of parliament. It was organized by stakeholders who felt that it is time that we brought this discussion to an end. So perhaps she felt diligent that it should have started from the house. This one did not start from the house. It came from the goodwill of mothers, sisters, grandmothers for the daughters who felt that the killing must stop. Right. As I said, there's no formula. We want to address that situation. The situation can be addressed holistically, not from only one perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes. And
so, CJ, now one would ask, when more protests are organized, and Amka Mama also is, organizing one. So, what should be considered when, organizing such kind of protests?
First of all, let me just go back a little bit to what Sabina said. You know, thinking about having all these counseling centers and coaching in the universities, that takes a lot. The conversation has to start somewhere. Because this framework, how long will it take to even put it in place? And why is the imagination that all the victims are university students? And why the presumption that all these girls were looking for money or something? I think the assumptions are a bit misplaced, because this could happen to anybody. This could happen to anybody. And when you say, you know, the protests should not have been done, so people should start with the counseling at university levels, I don't even think that that would then mitigate it, because then we would have to go back down to our families and begin with girls when they're 2 years old, 3 years old, because you're not going to change a girl at university level. There are a lot of things that have formed at that particular point. So I think the general thing is that the conversation needs to start somewhere. And so asking what should we consider before such are held, as long as there is no proper response to what is happening, then there needs to be a bit more of such activities. And I don't think, Stanley, I don't think that even from the perspective of the establishment, they have taken what would be the right route first. I think they have victimized business people. They have gone for the owners of short-term stay. So how does that really mitigate? Because you'll move this thing from the establishment, from the buildings, and these guys will do it elsewhere. It's only just the other day we started hearing of them killing people in Airbnbs. Before it was hostels, before it was in their own homes. They would, you know, get girls coming to visit them in their homes, and then these girls would be killed. They've been killed in different spaces. So I'm not even sure that the approach that has been taken both by the state and county governments, you know, has also been very, very effective. So the protests need to be there until a conversation is held. And they do this in politics, where they will keep agitating until there will be the necessity for the dialogue. And I think that's what.
And just to follow up, maybe you say you really mention the government and also county governments. Do you feel like they've done a lot and gone to, you know, further steps on, you know, mitigating and curbing these mysterious deaths?
If they have, that's not visible, because all we hear from out there is, you know, the regulation of the short-term stay. I think that's the only side that we are seeing. But these things do not begin from there. If probably they were looking at, if we started hearing things like there are certain social media platforms being shut down because of the kind of messages that they propagate and send out, because these thoughts are formed over time. So if I have somebody who keeps on spewing hate, either against the male or the female, and people come in there and that thing keeps on trending over and over, not everybody has the emotional intelligence to interact with that kind of information and leave it at face value. Not everybody will see something like, for example, women will eat your money and finish you, and think it's just a joke. Somebody else, for them, that is just going to elicit a lot of emotions. And so I think part of the things is like, you know, if for example, Stan, if something was threatening the existence of the government, they would shut it down. They would come for it, they would clamp it, they do that for media, they do that, they'll come in and they'll make sure there's no airtime or there's control over there. So we need to see some stuff like that. For this particular case, we need to see that people who are putting up irresponsible information out there that could trigger people into the hatred between the male and female and cause, you know, either femicide or even the killing of men, those kind of sites probably and platforms, they need to go for that and begin shutting that down.
Right.
Right.
Now, let's have a whole background of, you know, this conversation before we actually now dive into the elephant in the room, the role of men when it comes to this conversation. Because even as the protests that were happening last Saturday, we did see, you know, men there shoulder to shoulder, and this, you know, spoke volumes on what and how men should be involved in this conversation. So first off, we do start with even the whole understanding of this particular conversation. And just even a reminder also, I mean, you're saying what the government has been doing, and according to the DCI, they gave out a whole call number. I think now they should be telling us how many people have called so far. Rather, the call number 0800 722 203. That is the DCI call number. And so according to the World Health Organization, femicide is generally understood to involve intentional murder of women because they are women. Just a background of what we're discussing. So some data by the United Nations in 2022, around 48,000 women, girls worldwide were killed by their intimate partners or other family members, including fathers, mothers, uncles, and brothers. So this means that on average, more than 133 women or girls are killed every day by someone in their family. I think let's pause there before we even continue this, conversation. So this is in 2022, according to the United Nations, Omahio. And so this is 2 years ago. So this is globally. Does this, from where you sit, how worrying can this really be when you talk about 48,800 women and girls killed by their intimate partners, meaning on average 133 women or girls are killed every day by someone in their own family?
It is worrying. It's a worrying trend particularly in this country. It's only like 2 weeks back when one research group released now a current, the January murders. Mm-hmm. And it stood at about 234. That was by, I think, the last week of January. The 234 women, touching on across the different age groups, had been killed by persons who are close to them. This is an African setup where we are close-knit, that we stay with our brothers, we stay with our fathers, and we stay with our relatives. And when those relatives turn out to be not the caretakers, but the murderers, then that trend is worrying. Mm-hmm. These are persons that you are intimate with, they have your confidence, that when they decide to turn the knife onto you, then you even do not know where to start.
Because, yet the conversation has been, as Sija was alluding to,
yes,
pointing the blaming finger on now short-term rental, setups, or as some would call them, the Airbnbs. Some would say now you wouldn't really feel free in these spaces. But then, so how free and how the kind of freedom that one should have, and even the women can have in their own homes?
It's only last week when I think this week when a lady who was pregnant around the age of 27 was murdered and her body thrown to the roadside around Naivasha. Mm-hmm. That was not in an A&B setup. That was a different setup altogether. I think CJ has pronounced it very well, that the government have been doing short-term measures to address the situation as that. Mm-hmm. And this one we need now, a long-term discussion on the way forward.
I'll have to interrupt you shortly. That particular updates that we're having you for the Embakasi fire tragedy, we told that we do have the government spokesperson, Isaac Moura. A very good morning, sir. Kindly update us on what is happening in Embakasi and what actually transpired.
Yeah, thank you very much, TV47, for this opportunity to inform Kenyans. Mm-hmm. Actually, this is the first media station that I'm speaking to.
Okay.
What happened yesterday at around 11:30, there was a lorry at around Mradi area.
Okay.
That was, carrying gas.
Okay.
And it exploded, and that one cylinder hit a go down, and that go down caught fire, and then the fire spread rapidly to several, businesses and residential buildings, and that has affected the area a lot. The buildings have been badly damaged. You can see it was at night, and also eventually then many Kenyans have been affected and injured.
Right.
Regrettably, we have had 2 fatalities at Nairobi West Hospital, and 252 Kenyans have been taken to various hospitals, including Kenyatta National Hospital, Malusi, Mbagathi, and others. So really, it's quite regrettable that this has actually happened.
Right. And just a confirmation, what we had heard earlier was that at least 2 people had died from the incident, 1 adult and a minor as of 4:30 a.m. Could you clarify on the same?
Yeah, that is the official statement.
Right.
That 2 have already passed on. We hope and believe that these numbers can be contained, and we thank the National Police, the Kenya Red Cross, the county government of Nairobi, who have really intervened quickly, even to help in the evacuation. But we are telling Kenyans not to interfere with the area by going there, so that the rescue operations can continue. And
Right.
there's already a command center that has been put in place to help in the coordination of the operations.
Right. From where this particular fire happened, there are residential buildings around it. What does this mean for people who are living around this place for the next, as the evacuation process continues?
We just need to be careful. The fire is not fully contained, as you may be aware. So we need just to be alert that people should avoid that area. Thankfully, it's now during the day, everything can be seen. But, the government will do all it can to ensure that we have to restore the normalcy in the area. So that's what we would advise. It's unfortunate, and I want to take upon this opportunity to also call Kenyans of goodwill to have these families, because they are now displaced and they need a place to call home again, at least in the meantime. Yeah.
Right. Finally, before I let you go, roughly how much, how much has been lost roughly in damages?
We really can't quantify right now, because you can see their business premises, including a huge go down.
Okay.
And so therefore, even personal property. But the most important thing, sir, is the issue of life. I mean, that one cannot be quantified. 2 individuals, it would have been you, it could have been myself, who have been lost, and that has affected families forever, and including those who have had now burns and other injuries. So let's wait and see, but it's quite huge, and including the psychological trauma.
All right.
And so we would really call Kenyans of goodwill, in the spirit of nationhood and patriotism, to come out and stand with fellow Kenyans and assist where they can. Of course, as I said earlier, the government will do what it can in the spirit of Umoja na Uzalendo.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Highly appreciated. Isaac Moro, the government spokesperson, just giving us an update on the Embakasi fire tragedy. And as he has confirmed, at least 2 people have lost their lives. That is 1 adult and a minor at around 4:30 a.m. This was also confirmed by the Embakasi OCPD, that is Wesley Kimeto. Remember, our reporters are on ground just to give you an update on this. We'll be giving you live pictures of the same, as the government spokesperson was alluding to the whole evacuation process around there. If you live around there or walk around there, you have been advised not to actually go to these particular places as this process continues. All right, let's cross over back to a conversation.
True.
As we talk about matters, the role of men in ending femicide. I had cut you short. Sorry for that.
During that protest, we had the presence of men who joined and echoed the voices of the women. Before we went on that break, we said that, I was saying that the government have been doing very, very true to assist, to echo that voice. CJ just mentioned something that it's like you're targeting some business people with an intention of short-term addressing that issue, but in essence, you're not dealing with the core issue. During that protest, we didn't have any representation from the government, but we had good representation from several groups, including men of the crowd. I believe moving forward, the role of men when we are addressing this issue. Much as they have been the perpetrators, not all of them have been the perpetrators of the injustice, but it's also the right time that we go now to institutions that have been established, like the churches, and then we start discussing it. Other than the praise and worship, once we are done with the praise and worship, let us have like 5 minutes addressing those issues. That woman who was murdered in Naivasha, she was on her way to buy some groceries for her babies. We have some myths that have been going around that it's only the sex workers who are victims of femicide. That is not the case. Demystifying that discussion, that it's only one sect of women who are victims of the same, should not be the status quo.
Right.
This is literally somebody intentionally getting life out of a woman.
Right.
Whether you are a sex worker, whether you are a mother, whatever the situation that you found yourself in. Some 2 weeks back, we had an incident where a father murdered a daughter. The daughter was about 13 years old. Then that was not a sex worker. This is a father who has deliberately decided to terminate the life of his kid. So this is a discussion that should go to several platforms. Communication department at the several government offices have been very poor. Take the case of that number that have been released by the DCI. How many Kenyans know of that number? That number is too wrong. My mother at the village cannot master that, like, I think it was about 13 digits. Yeah. Why not have like 4 digits that everybody, the small babies in the CBC, class grade 1, 2, and 3 can master those SMS code.
There are actually 10 of them.
There are 10.
Yes.
There are 10 of them.
Let me just get that. It's about 0800 722 203. Yes, about 10 of them. There are
10. How many mothers from our villages can master now those 10 digits, you know? Why not reduce the digits to something that is manageable? Like the 3 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, you know? That is easy for them now, people, so that even for our sisters, they can easily master that communication. The other one is the police department. From the desk that have been kept aside, what is the data that we have? Is somebody sleeping on that desk that we've only released the number, but again, that file will be closed, like say within a week. So this is a discussion that should be a continuous discussion.
So meaning, I mean, the sum of cases that might have happened.
Yes.
As much as we, the media, might get, you know, some of these cases, but then there's some of the cases that might actually have happened, and we don't even know that they happened. What's the impact of this, CJ, really?
You see, when people know that they can get away with something, they become bolder at doing it. When she was talking about, you know, the 3 digits, I remember the days of 999, 911. I mean, anybody would know how to dial that. So it makes sense. But I think even some of these perpetrators, for example, when you look at it, when their cases come up, you realize there has been a chain of abuse. People don't wake up overnight and begin to do certain kind of things. So the question is, if this thing was reported somewhere, what was done about it? Because by the time somebody has emotionally abused somebody, threatened or coerced somebody into something, and then done that to the second person, they should be called in for questioning. They should be detained for probably a day, should be put on probation. There should be certain measures, like we shouldn't wait for somebody to do something as drastic as, you know, beating up somebody, breaking a limb, or actually killing before then they get arrested. I think if they start, you know, nabbing it at the bud, that even when you post something, like I said, they do this for politics and for state security. You do a certain kind of a tweet, they think this is a threat to national security, they'll come for you. That same thing should be done over these lives. You know, Honorable Maura was talking about 2 lives. You cannot quantify that. Yeah. But how many are we talking about? You're talking about 130-something per day globally that are being lost. That's a whole national disaster, you know.
And also just so that's globally. So now, according to the United Nations Women, now let's have a look at now continentally and take a look at how it is. So that's now in 2022. So Africa recorded the largest absolute number of female intimate partner and family-related killings, with an estimated 20,000 victims, followed by 18,400 in Asia, 7,900 in the Americas, 2,300 in Europe, and 200 in Oceania. So I'd be chiming on both of you to get to know why is it that Africa really pops up as number one. So in Kenya, Kenya's Bureau of National Statistics indicates 45% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence, and that the main perpetrators of physical violence against women are their husbands or intimate partners. Really takes us back to the safe spaces within even our homes that should be. And also, now closer look at the numbers in Kenya. According to the data by the African Uncensored, shows that Nairobi, Kiambu, and Nakuru have reported the highest incidences of femicide-related killings. So, however, it's crucial to note that due to the whole data limitations and the even news coverage across the country, this doesn't necessarily indicate that they have the highest overall murder rates. And this, definitely takes us back to what we were discussing earlier. You'd find, for example, in certain counties, getting information from them might really be tricky. Sourcing the information that what actually happened in specific areas of specific counties might be challenging, comparing to, let's say, the logistics of, let's say, Nairobi, and actually, sourcing information from there.
Right.
CJ.
Also because Nairobi, generally Kiambu, Nakuru are more cosmopolitan as well. We've got to understand the cultural limitations in certain of these spaces as well. Even when people have the information, they feel it's taboo to talk about, especially when that has been committed by people who are very closely knit within the family. And they would want to probably handle it at a family level. And in a sense, that becomes an enabling environment then for these kind of things to happen, because when I know that it will only be dealt with at a certain level, and I can actually manipulate that process because it's my uncles or it's my grandparents or it's my parents, and people will say, look, we are family, we can talk about this. Then after a while, the fear of being this violent person or this emotionally abusive person begins to die off. I mean, we've seen cases where somebody will slap a woman on social media, like live on a video, and then come back and buy a car for this lady. Yeah. And you wonder, so where are the brothers of this lady? Where's the family? And several others, some of them that we would not mention because some of those things are brought a bit more confidentially, where you see people who can literally buy off even the family of the victim because economic circumstances are also a huge factor in this. I'll abuse this girl or this woman, then I'll run to the family with a gift, and then they'll say, marriage or relationships normally have this kind of challenges, so he's not a bad person. So some of these people have dual personalities. They have one face to the public and one face to the person they're relating with, so that by the time you are complaining as a victim and saying, this is what this person is doing to me, nobody believes you, because of whom they have presented themselves to be. I think it is important that even in those spaces where culture has generally become an enabler of some of these things, we begin to open up a bit. Because generally Africans, we have had a culture of silence, where we don't bring up things to the table and don't talk about them. And we try to, mutilate every voice that tries to bring up anything that will bring disharmony. Or so we'd look at it.
And Wamaki, will that now be the reason why Africa might be leading in these cases? And also, when you take a look at African culture, so how do you really even point out, the perpetrator? How should that even be done? You find in a culture, everyone knows this one knows this one. It's a small village where everyone literally knows this one. So, as he says, it really forms a whole silence. And also even the stigma. Tukisema si tutaonekana familia yetu. Some of this, notions start cropping up. So how should we really now navigate that?
It is a very delicate situation. Take a case of our pastoralist community, the Turkana, Saburu, Maasai, where a girl at the age of 13, she's already a wife's, somebody's wife. The husband is about 70 years old. How do you define that one? That is another incidence of precursor going to that direction. The myths that we have in our own customs are limiting to the effect that you cannot take action, much action per se. CJ said of the compromising. Much as the state have realized that in, say, in Western Kenya, parents are known of interfering so that that matter is dealt with by the Nyumba Kumi or the Nyumba ya Wazee. Yeah. What has the state done to curb those discussions? Because somebody here should be the big brother and stand for those voices. That young girl will not be in the sitting room where the discussion between CJ and Stanley discussing the life of that girl. The Wazees will be called, that girl will be called, the girl will not be called. The men and women of that village will sit to discuss her fate when she's outside. Yet she's the victim. Perhaps she was raped by that old man, and then she's kept of the darkness. They sit and discuss. Let us give off that girl to CJ at the price of, say, 2 herds of cattle. That discussion, the government has realized that there are some communities that are abusers of those young girls.
Right.
What have they done? Where the cases have gone to courts and the courts have decided to be silent on that matter, has the ODPP gone back to the court and said, this case should not take that direction? So you see, it's a compromise system right from the inception way to the conclusion. I think it is the high time that the government put a stop on some discussions. That when it comes to the case of abuses, GBVs, any other violence against women, there's no discussion. It is right from the word go. Go to the court, let that matter be heard and determined and concluded without compromise. When we have those statements, we say there's no formula for dealing with it. But when we have those statements, now perpetrators now we start fearing on events that I'm caught. There will not be a communication between me and the family. I will end up in jail. So if we have that communication, that matter should stop. Mm-hmm. The other issue against Stanley here is the myths that some people will have. You'll hear that in some communications person saying, to men, there's no the word no to the man. So even if the woman is not willing, the man, there's already a myth that kawaze hakunaga apana, So everything should be an automatic yes. So you'll be raped because the man, to the men, there's no the word no, do not operate in their dictionaries. CJ here is aware of those from his village. He must have had those sentiments. From my village, I must have had those sentiments. What is the discussion that we have that men now should stop now demystifying that statement? Let us redefine the role of now men that we can discuss and reason. Here what we have is persons are not willing to listen. It's all about what I bring on board, and what I bring on board now becomes 100%. That is now the worrying factor. Right. Other than the needs that we have, other than the data that we have, we should also now redefine our men. And it is not hard to define our men. Our men today, from even the participants that we had on that march, if that message and statement is spread now across the men, I think we are headed in the right direction if we have that discussion. But if we do not have that discussion, it will only be a show for several purposes.
I'm pretty sure you really want to chime into the whole repositioning the man, but still on the whole judicial system. Still taking a look at what the data talks about. So a whole compilation of about 500 cases done by the African Uncensored, spanning from about 2016 to 2023. just showing you how the numbers really look like and the whole worrying trend of that. But then as well, interesting to note, so once a perpetrator is arrested and brought to court, it takes an average of about 1,900 days for case to be concluded and the suspect sentenced. So it's crucial to note that this time frame does not encompass cases involving appeals, which tend to extend the duration even further. So this brings up the whole conversation of as much as the justice system might seem to be working, but then now the length of it actually working and the whole duration of the wheels of justice actually turning is way slower than families of the victims might really be hoping. Today we're expecting John Matara to be appearing before the courts. So this again is quite a timely conversation. Your thoughts on the wheels of justice and the judicial system really?
1,900 days is nearly 6 years. It's about 6 years. So what does that do? It's like somebody who will con you of money and know that if you take them to court, that case will run for probably another 5-10 years. Yeah. So they never really then fear coming to con you. And they know they'll go to court and then, keep on stretching that case and then say, even if they owed you $1 million or $2 million, they'll say, I paid him $20,000, I'm willing to pay. So they therefore generally use that very justice system to keep themselves. Now, what happens to the victim within this period? Because sometimes when we talk about the rights, sometimes I feel that these rights are so much more inclined towards the perpetrators than even the victims. So in trying to mitigate one thing, which was abuse that was there before the 2010 Constitution, we swung the pendulum to the other extreme, where people will do anything that they want, but then the Bill of Rights will also have covered them so strongly that by the time even this justice is seen or felt to have been done, sometimes the victim is not even there anymore. Sometimes they're not there anymore. Just the stretch of the court cases alone is more torture. And this is why sometimes some people will not go and report, because just talking about sexual harassment, for example, talking about domestic violence, then you're going to go through this for another 5 years or 6 years. Who wants to be going to court for 5 years? Who wants a case to drag for that long? This is why some people just drop it. And they say, well, let me leave it. I don't think I'll get justice. What happens to the perpetrator? They become bolder. They realize.
It's a huge toll even for the victim's family.
Yes, it is. And so this perpetrator feels, I can actually get away with this. And because they do not suffer the consequences of what they've done, they easily can repeat it to the same person or do it with another person somewhere else. So I think that time is too long. It's quite too long for anybody to even claim to get justice. I mean, even if then eventually you will punish this person, you've also done a lot of damage to the victim. Emotionally, mentally, financially, you're taking their time. They have to keep on coming in and, talking about what happened, exposed, talking about the same scenarios over and over, nearly feeling degraded sometimes, reliving certain things that they did not even want to, they're trying to heal from. So probably they're attending court and attending therapy at the same time, trying to heal on this side and having to relive it on this side, the conflicting emotions that come in, it's too much. So with such matters, I think the sooner they conclude that, the better. And let me tell you, I believe that if authorities want to get to the bottom of any matter here, they will. They will. I believe they can get to anybody they want to, and we're in an age where technology helps us in a lot of things. We have more intelligent, I believe, police force than was in the 80s and stuff, because then you just take anybody. Right now you've got people who are university graduates, you've got all kinds of professionals who work in the police force. If they really want to get to the bottom of something in the shortest time, they will. So the question is, why don't they? Is it a lack of motivation? Is it that people have also become part of the enabling environment to these crimes? Is it that There's no big news around it, so somebody does not feel like they need to pursue. Is it a corrupt system where if you have to report something, then you have to give me something for me to pursue it? We also have to look at that. What is it that makes these people not feel like they need to push this case very quickly?
Right.
Right.
Just to remind, also we'll be getting an update from the disaster risk reduction and the disaster risk management expert. That is Pius Masai Machi. Will be calling him shortly. But then really now discussing on repositioning the new age man. Because, I mean, when you take a look at these conversations that were happening, even in socials, even during the protests, you'd find even some men, really young men, really coming out and just having some whole opposing kind of thoughts and all that. This largely speaks on how some of these men were raised. Does it, CJ? What's the problem here, really?
You see, for the young men, they speak from a very narrow, and sorry to use that, but very narrow worldview, which is how they relate with girls. And because there's not been a lot of intentional mentoring, especially when it comes to how to relate. See, girls were taught how to sit, how to dress, what to say, where to go. They're always told a lot of things. They're told, don't go here, don't talk to strangers, don't be in this place at this particular point. Goes back to what Honorable Sabina Chege was doing, you know, it's always on the girls. But generally, we have not done as much with boys. We have not taught them how to relate with girls. When we were growing up, you go out, you play, come back, eat, go back, play, come back. Nobody domesticates the man. And most of them begin to try to learn relationships when they're in it. And they probably then learn it from their peers. So at that particular point, they're not really built up for how to relate. And so they begin to struggle with certain things, like the no, the rejection, the thought that if I have spent some money on this girl, then I am entitled to anything that she has because it is a transaction. So we have not taught much about respect. We have not taught about a man being like a foundation for this woman, being a pillar for them, being a protector, being a provider. Some of them are deeper discussions, but just the element of the protection. That I'm supposed to protect this person, whether they are my sister, my daughter, my wife, somebody I'm relating with, or somebody who has refused to relate with me. I still must remain a protector. Even when we part ways, I still must remain a protector. And that they're not commodities we go into a supermarket and buy. They're human beings with their own emotion, their will, their intellect, and they can make decisions. Those decisions are determined by several factors, including where they are at emotionally at that particular point, what they have gone through, families that they've come from. So when she says no to something, it may not be necessarily to me. It may be internal battles that she has. It may be what she has seen in life. She may be saying no to the whole concept of a relationship. It's not generally me. The question is, why are we feeling that entitled? Whatever it is, even if I've spent money on you, even if I bought you a car, even if I've bought you a house, why should I feel entitled to the point where I feel that if you don't come along with me, I take your life?
CJ, hold that thought there. I want to cross over to the Embakasi fire incident and just to get a whole perspective. Remember, it's a developing story. At least 2 people have lost their lives. Earlier on, we had a phone call with the government spokesperson, Isaac Maura. Right now, I want to engage Pius Masai Mwachi, who's a disaster risk reduction and disaster risk management expert, just to also give us details and expert opinion on the same. He's also the former acting director, National Disaster Management Unit, Kenya, and a senior police officer, retired. A very good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. It's an unfortunate instance.
And thank you for granting us this opportunity to talk to you. First of all, so this particular incident, we've had so about 167 victims being treated at Mamalosi Hospital. So out of this 167, 142 are adults and 25 are children, many with inhalation injuries. Talk us through what this really means, and even them being in hospital, what this really means for them?
Actually, first of all, it's unfortunate that we've lost people and many injured because of negligence of certain people. Before I comment on that, I'd like to say like this. In this country, Kenya, we need to do right things, because I, being an expert and an experience in disaster risk reduction, disaster risk management, I say that, first of all, it's unfortunate that people have been killed by other people who have done reckless acts, because as the way things are, when looking at the clips I've seen and what I've heard, there is a lot that meets an eye. If people can follow what they should do, because there are standards. I see it on Kenya Bureau of Standards of handling of and transportation of dangerous goods, which is part of this. And there are standards which Kenya Bureau of Standards have developed, and the publics are aware. Anyone dealing with such commodities, they need to have those standards which describe how those standards, how such goods should be kept, packaged, manufactured, and even transported, and storage, name it. So people being killed because people have failed to do their responsibilities, the police and other institutions need to take a swift action of investigation and take the responsible owners to court as soon as possible.
All right.
Before I talk about what those ones that are affected are going through.
Okay.
Those affected, what they are going through is a difficult situation.
Okay.
Because those injuries resulting gas explosion, people inhale fire. You know, when you inhale fire, what happens? It burns through to the lungs. And the injured people, they get burned, and they are in very serious conditions. So those hospitals attending to them, I thank them that they took initial responsibility of attending to them, but they need to do much to ensure that those casualties get the right treatment, because fire burns resulting gas explosion, they are very dangerous and can cause more death as it is now.
Okay. So now, in case of such an accident, what should one do? I mean, so for someone who has inhaled the fumes in this particular area as of midnight, and they live around this area, yet they have not gone to hospital yet, what should they do in case they've inhaled these fumes?
I'm telling you, the number is a lot. People don't understand what they need to do. All people surrounding that incident, you know, when that fire explosion, first of all, there is heat. There is inhalation. Okay. So there is a larger population in thousands, not only the hundreds I'm being told. So those people who feel that they got the heat, they got inhalation, let them go for treatment so that doctors will give them the next action. Because if they stay at home, they may be affected more and more, and even some may die. So it is important that any person who feels that is the heat, inhalation, they need to go for treatment. Because the heat reaches far. And you know, when you look at the height of the fire, and also the direction, and also what matters, what was the wind direction? The wind direction at the time of the fire, it will tell the instant commander where to focus so much. So as what is this now? The Disaster Management Unit Kenya and other stakeholders who are on the ground, they need to do what we call sensitization, identifying the area that they should focus on, and advise those people affected that they should go for medical checkup. And also they should identify the site. The site should be quite systematic, ensuring that it covers all surrounding areas. and they'll take even some people on the ground which were banned beyond recognition. I remember when you had the Langata fire incident, you remember there was that fire, and within that short time, there were many people who were banned in that fire. We caught ashes of people.
Okay.
So they should not just expect to find that person who has got the full body person. No, you'll find that there are people who are banned beyond recognition. Some are ashes.
Yeah.
And that's why that area should be treated as a CPRN incident. Chemical biological incident in that it should be secured, and the government of Kenya as experts, as it is now, the government chemists and the the Kenya Defense Forces, RTU, also have capacity to deal with that. So let all those experts move on the ground, do the right thing. It's not just an incident where the police go and visit and say that this is just an incident which happened yesterday and then now this is the situation. No. You remember what happened in Naivasha some time back?
Yes.
Explosion. The incident was at night. I was in Nairobi. Then after a few minutes, they said they have completed the incident. I said, no. I went there. I found that things were not right. I started fresh to investigate and call the experts. So this incident will take longer time. It will not even take shorter time.
Okay.
The areas will be well cordoned. People evacuated. There is an evacuation process which has taken place. Let the county government of Nairobi be responsible. Let the governor do the right work. Let the Nairobi county people ensure that those people are evacuated. They are given support. There is humanitarian need in that area. So there is a note that meets an eye. It's not just a thing that something has just happened, an incident has happened and it's done. No. This is a long process.
A final one for you, sir. A final one briefly before I let you go. The trauma that the residents there, those who are living there, might have experienced due to the magnitude of this incident. How should that be taken? May
you repeat the question, sir?
For the trauma of the residents living around this particular place, and even the workers, they've experienced trauma due to the magnitude of this incident. How should this be taken through?
In disaster management, there's what you call, after the response phase, there's recovery phase.
Okay.
What I expect to see right now is recovery objectives. They cover identification of those people in need of medical who are still undergoing treatment.
All right.
There's psychosocial support and counseling process taking place.
Right.
There is the issue of counting to know who are these people, the population that are affected that need humanitarian aid.
Okay.
And also there's the objective of investigation going on. So what I expect to see right now is a seal of that place. It's not a walk in. But I know if you go there, you'll find people walking in, walking out, disturbing the scene. So what should be done right now should be a total seal of that area. And all investigators, let them go there to do the right thing. And I want to hear the National Disaster Management Director taking responsibility, being on the ground, being heard by the people, telling people what to do, leading. They should lead. The National Disaster Operations Center, coordinating resources. This country has a national plan, which we developed in 2014. This national plan gives us responsibilities, objectives of every stakeholder. It's not about one entity. It's about all of us. So there are people who are government agencies. They must take responsibility of leading the people. I know they are doing a good work, but let them be heard. There are also non-state actors, the Red Cross, who have heard about them, the St. John Ambulance, other actors. It's about all of us being responsible, and even individuals. Even if myself, my senses are needed, I can be there, but only that I'm far away from Nairobi. If I was in Nairobi, I would be on the ground straight away. And even if people need me, let them send a chopper. I remember when I was there, my chopper was on standby. I used to just, yes.
And because, I mean, you're saying people will definitely need you. We're also having live pictures of right there at Embakasi. And there are a number of people thronging around that particular place. Is there any health impact for them just being at that scene at the moment?
I'm telling you, with my experience, you see what was in Langata fire incident when I was there. We had people and 100 to 1,000 people affected. You know, these people, they stay in a family, one family would have 10, 15 people looking for employment. People have got issues. So the population is too large. Right now, there is a lot of humanitarian need in that area. That's why I've said, let the incident commander on the ground take responsibility. It's not about OCS. It's not about OCPD. It's not about the regional police commander in Nairobi. Right. It's about incident management, and the incident commander must direct, must give orders, must give the situation, and must update the public. It's not about the government spokesman giving the update. It's about the incident commander, incident management. There is a communication officer at the incident level.
All right.
Who should be updating the public. Since yesterday, when this incident happens, we need to have several updates.
All right.
It is not a small matter. It's not just something happening. It's something that Miss and I, that's why you just saw a similar incident happening in America, in UK, in developed countries.
Right. Asante sana.
Right now, every focus must be in Embakasi. It's not something easy. I'm telling you where I am now. Even if a chopper can send me in Kakamega, where I am now, I'll come and go. I'll serve my country. I'm ready to serve.
All right. Asante sana, sir. Asante sana, Pius Masai Mwachi, the disaster and risk reduction and management expert. Asante sana for that. The live pictures that you're seeing at the moment at the Embakasi gas filling station. Police officers there just trying to control the crowd of that particular place, as well as the uniformed officers. You can see the wreckage of that car. And even as Masai was advising, even the public there, do stay away from direct contact because of the harmful health effects that it might have on you. You can have a couple of listen into the live pictures that we're having for you at Embakasi. And just a reminder also, we had talked to government spokesperson, that is Isaac Mwaura, and he had alluded that one lorry of an unknown registration number that was loaded with gas exploded, igniting a huge ball of fire. That was around 11:30 p.m. Yesterday. And this was the cause of that fire. And a flying gas cylinder hit Oriental Godown, burning down the said Godown, which deals with garments and textiles. So consequently, the Inferno father has damaged several vehicles and commercial properties. You can definitely see a member of parliament of Embakasi East, that is Babu Owino, walking, flanked by, among other leaders of that area, just inspecting the damages that have happened. According to Isaac Mwaura's earlier phone call, he said they're not sure the amount of money that may have been lost. We'll be getting more details from that particular place later on, just to understand the magnitude of this. It will obviously be affecting the normal day-to-day routine of this road. Do expect some slight traffic snarl-ups around there because that particular major road might have been closed. Do expect just waiting even after Babu Owino, Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, in there, among other leaders. We'll be getting to know all that, the live pictures that will be updating you on that. That is the Embakasi fire incident, and once more, Polisana to the families who have lost their loved ones. Let's go back to our conversation this morning. We had really anticipated having this conversation as lengthy as possible, but then calamity.
Right.
Yes.
True.
So even as we also chime in on what is happening, well, earlier now talking about repositioning, and talking to the young men out here, what they should really do when it comes to even treating the girls. Talk us through all that, Joyce.
Before I go to that, my heart goes out to the victims of Embakasi fire strategy. To the 2 wives who've been lost, we wish them, to the families of the ones who've been affected, wish them a quick recovery. For the ones who are in hospital. For the 2 wives that are lost, may they rest in peace. Okay. Before I go to the role of women, there's something that CJ mentioned. The 6 years as you wait for the deliberation of that matter. Yeah. And he's taken us through the roller coaster of all manner of things. I want to take back the word to the desk of judiciary. There's lack of goodwill from judiciary. When they are handling the electoral matters, there's a timeline of 6 months to have concluded, started the process and concluded, so that we do not have this matter running over until, say, the end of the next general election. If the courts can set aside the desks and courts to deal with electoral injustice, then the same judiciary system can set up desks and specific timelines so that we are dealing with. We do not need to require 1,900 days to determine this matter. If we can take 6 months to determine an electoral justice, we can equally take less than 3 months to determine this issue. So let us not have double speak in terms of judicial system, that on one hand, you are supporting, you do not have space, you do not have infrastructure, you do not have the personnel to handle the femicide issues, but you have the personnel, the infrastructure to handle electoral justice. That is one. 2, witness protection programs. What scope should be given now to the witness protection programs? To the surviving persons who've been subject to the violence, has the government taken it up upon themselves to put them in a restrictive area? So that, like CJ has said, it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of goodwill, a lot of counseling, a lot of so many, a whole manner of things. If they are kept in those now protected areas, then these issues of I do not want to appear, so that I testify against that penetrator. I will not do not have the resources to go to court. Then those, we can encourage now more victims to come out and give out account of what happened. But if we leave it to only some specific cases for witness protection, and we do not encompass a whole range of who is involved. So I want to take it to the desk of the CJ, the desk of the ODPP, define who the victims who will be captured by the witness protection program, so that if we encompass now everybody, then even now members, the women who have been victims, there's some men who have been victims, can now be under that coverage.
All right. And, well, as you can see on the bottom, I think right on your screen, the police are talking there. Let's listen into what is happening.
We have come to visit. It's a very, very unfortunate incident, so that we can be able to kick off and start the investigation process to establish exactly what has happened. Local member of parliament of this area. Maybe just the highlights is that it happened during the night at around 23 hours. We have the epicenter of the explosion. It's a parking yard for the lorries that are laden with gas. The investigators are on site right now. I have this guy. He has already commenced investigations. I think he's other instructions to waste no time. Move with speed. In the next 14 days, we should be having the findings and his recommendations, so that we can be able to move forward. Now, based on his findings, I think we will be able now to commence other processes that are required by others. Otherwise, we have around 271 people who are admitted in various hostels in Nairobi. In Mamaruse, having the bulk, adding like 40 there. The rest of the resident hostels have various numbers. 21 were treated on site and they are allowed to go back to their homes. We have 3 fatalities. That is it's up now. Otherwise, we are going to continue providing information. We have a command center down there that you can also be able to get additional information, whatever that you require. And even for those who have not seen the rapid ones, you can also be able, they can also be helped from the command center. Otherwise, that's all for now. We are going to continue with the sketches.
Asante sana Bwana Douglas. One, I want to really take this opportunity to thank the government, thank BIG and the police. I really want to thank you for the great job and the quick action, prompt action that you've taken towards assisting the people of Embakasi Mradi area. BIG Douglas Kanja, you've done a great job. At least as of now, we can see the fire is settled down. The fire raged. So many cars have been destroyed, so many houses have been destroyed, business premises have been destroyed. A lot has really happened, and a great thanks once again to this service, our OCPD and BCI. Thank you so much. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Kenyan Airports Authority for responding very fast in G4S, and the residents also for coming out to assist fellow neighbors. This is a great incident that has really taken us back because people have lost lives. Several people have lost lives. Several people, over 270, are in different hospitals at Mamalusi, the Ufaro, Kenyatta Hospital, Bagari, and the nearby dispensaries. There's still a search going on of whether there are bodies which have been burnt in various houses. And we are asking Kenyans to pray for us. This is a time when we are saddened by such an incident that never happened before in Embakasi. And what we can ask from Kenyans is to pray for us. Otherwise, I want to thank you very much. Continue to join us in your prayers. The media is an opportunity to come and share the love. Thank you very much.
One thing that I need to appreciate is that I was here when it started. In fact, when we had the smell, I was among the people who was walking to find out what was happening. Because first of all, I thought it was coming from my plot. So I had to send people to go and check what is going on. At sometimes we thought it was a sewage. So we had to, my flat is somewhere there. We had to go and knock every door to find out if there was a gas which was leaking from an house. Then I heard that there was a truck that came here, and it was leaking. So because it was a gas, I decided not to come close, but I tried to the OCS. And then I was also informed that there were some people who are also trying to siphon a gas. So since I was not around, I cannot say whether it was being siphoned or it was leaking. That one I can't confirm. The only thing I can confirm is that our police in Embakasi did a good job. They acted promptly, and we really appreciate. The Airports Authority acted promptly. The military acted promptly. G4S promptly. County government promptly. It was just a mess that they were not able to contain it. Otherwise, the action very prompt, and it was even a threat to their own lives, leave alone the people who they were trying to save. Because the tanks or the blows, you see, somebody told me one of the tankers, it blew and it went up around Quickmart. If you go to my building, it is a 5-story building. It was broken on top. So there were some huge things which were just flying all over the place. So it was just a mess. Even the people who came to save us, they really risked their life. But otherwise, what I can say, we really appreciate for your prompt action. The police of Embakasi, you did a wonderful job, and we need to appreciate that. Otherwise, it has happened. But one thing I need to request the government, that there are some substances which are highly inflammable. I think you need to have some rules where how far they are supposed to be from the people. Because when people stay together with a gas, it is terrible. So we could not do anything. We could only run away. We had to carry children up to Taj Mahal. I was personally there carrying children on food. They got lost. I assisted people looking for their children. So it was just a mess. Otherwise, thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate and the members of this area for what they did. We thank you very much. My name is Michael Ogada. Mheshimiwa Ogada, yes. Yes.
So thank you very much. You have heard it.
Maybe just one question. Seth Olale from Citizen TV. In terms of preliminary, I know you're going to embark on proper investigation.
Yes, we have already started.
You've started, but in terms of preliminary findings, what would you say? So, interviewing residents and locals, but in terms of preliminary findings, what would you say would be possible for this?
Well, I don't want to speculate. Would like to leave it to the investigators to give us accurate information on that. And that's the reason why I have said the DCI is under firm instructions that within the next 2 weeks, we should be having that information because it is critical for all of us. The insurers and everybody else requires that. So let us leave it to the investigators to tell us exactly what has happened. Thank you very much. Tutembea tu hivi tuangalie venye hizo damage.
Right, live pictures there from Embakasi, and earlier on, Douglas Kanja was speaking. He is a Deputy Inspector General of the Kenya Police, as well as a Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, that is Babu Owino. I've also had, well, as you can see right now, some live pictures. Camera person just trying to balance that particular footage for us to see. We'll be getting more updates from that area. Let's get back into the conversation before we are again interrupted. And I mean, we've really largely touched on the whole judicial system, and also alluding to and touching on the role of men in this conversation. I had cut you short before we can continue. Okay.
I was pushing on the issue of the Witness Protection Program, so that even the victims of the GBV can be embraced in that protection. Lastly, the participation of other bodies, like the churches, families, let us all come out and talk about it. I'm a follower of the Catholic Church, and we have what you call the Beacon Boy Project. The Beacon Boy Project is just like what CJ was saying. Start mentoring the boys from the age of 9 upwards, so that these boys now can grow up embracing the women as their mothers, the sisters, etc. So that, you know, it's a holistic approach. As I said earlier, we do not have a formula for dealing with this, but we can all of us collectively decide to address it from whatever perspective. So the churches, let the church take its role, let the women leaders take their roles, let our organizations, let everybody who is involved, let the government also take its role. Lastly, let there be good communication let it not always that the media who is starting up this discussion, but let the government now initiate this discussion. Let it be a concerted effort from the government and not from other stakeholders. Thank you.
And now that Joyce, mentions all this, there's the church, the government. So one would ask, at the end of the day, where does the buck stop when it comes to cancelling? Because the nominated MP was talking about let's cancel our women, let's cancel our young girls. But we're talking about now cancelling even the young men and teaching them that, well, if you have a girlfriend, this is how you treat her. So at the end of the day, where does the buck stop when it comes to even educating the young man?
Family. It's all family. You see, when we abdicated the roles in our families of raising our children, and we left them to the domestic managers who come in and probably are overwhelmed with a lot of work, they would probably want to just do the work that they're supposed to be paid for. They're not going to instill the values and inculcate those values in the children. It's a bit too much. You don't expect them to do the washing, the cleaning up of the house, cooking, and still teach your children things and do homework. So when we started staying off from home, and being out there, coming back late and thinking that just because we pay the bills and send these children to schools and what we think are good schools, then over the holidays we send them over to camps because we do not know how to be around them. And we keep on trying to avoid every conversation with them, give them the TV, give them the remote, put TVs in their rooms, give them a phone, let them have YouTube. We have totally just avoided to have conversations with our children. And so when they begin growing up, they're picking up information from all kinds of spaces, and they're hungry for knowledge, they're hungry to learn. So it really matters then who gets to them first and what they really keep on seeing. So by the time we are talking about, even getting to have conversations with these people, they probably have the seeds of violence. They do not know what rejection means. They are very entitled. They do not know how to handle a no. Sometimes they have low self-esteem.
Allow me to throw the span in the works now for here.
Right.
Now, the pressure of opulence, will it be a factor when it comes to all this and this conversation? The whole pressure of making it big and actually having hold money. Will this be a factor here?
One of the saddest cases I've ever met was a boy who told us in the presence of the parents. You look at him and the whole thing of the atmosphere around him was very, very, a very eerie presence around him. And he told me, I chose this path because my parents chose poverty. And this was late last year in November. He's in what other circles would literally say is demonized, like possessed. But he was initiated through the internet into something, and he says it's because the parents chose poverty and he wanted wealth. So I said, well, do you have it? This boy is just about 16 or 17. I said, do you have it? He said, no. But look at what then people get exposed to. And so when you talk about the opulence, there's a part of that. But generally, it's just the values. The values that as we're growing up, whether you will have much or not have much, who are you? Whom do you define yourself to be outside of what you do, what you have, what you get, and what you give? Because what happens sometimes is that when I give something to somebody and then they do not accept me, I feel that they have rejected me because to me, that money is my power. I have no identity outside of what I have given. But when we begin to have discussions, you see, when you're raising your children, you give them affirmation, a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of direction. You try to help them find their vision in life and then settle their values as well. So no matter what happens out there to them, they should never doubt who they are. Most of those things happen because there's an identity crisis. And because the person does not know how to handle who they think they are in such situations. Whether, for example, the lady has gone with somebody else or took the money and never showed up, or said no over time, or he feels he has invested a lot. I took her through college and now she wants to make her own decisions. It's the matter of how I view myself that will make me act out on her. Because if I then think that I have lower value, I'm a less man because of what she did, I will feel the need for revenge. And so when we begin to affirm people and say life will throw at you different things, but if you have done your best and the other person was not genuine, you lost nothing. You actually gained by losing them because you got to know somebody who did not deserve you. We have to teach the young men their self-worth as well, and that self-worth is not just in material things. It's not just in money. It's not just in what you can give or do. It is in who you are. Right.
Food for thought there. We have about I think less than 10 minutes, and I'd really like to peruse the kind of demands that I believe also Mkamama was part of, that about 300 rights groups and a range of women were pushing for. Director Kevo, if we can have a list of this particular graphics of the demands by some of the Kenyan women. So the push to end the rising cases of gruesome murders in the country. So first of all, they'll talk about the presidential declaration of femicide as a national crisis. Number two, the president to adopt an executive order to committing zero tolerance to femicide. There's also establishment of a commission on the elimination of femicide and violence against women and girls. So they're also demanding that as we move on. So number four, Kenbias should adopt the human rights approach in femicide, and so basically adopt the collection framework on femicide to design evidence-based solutions. They are also demanding for an inclusive and participatory process, which includes grassroots feminist organizations and movements in the appointment of women to public positions. Finally, on our list, more responsible and less sensational reporting from media houses on femicide and violence against women. So they're urging discretion in the release of unnecessary violent details and images, and encourage media houses to engage feminist experts to help them improve reporting on the same. So this particular demands, there were about 16 of them.
True.
Yes. So first of all, so the tabling of this particular demands, walk us through the importance of even having some of these demands, and the most notable. I picked the 6 of them because they are some of the notable ones. Having the president declare femicide as a national crisis, will that be the silver bullet that we are looking for?
That's one amongst others. We've not heard his voice. We've not heard the main voice, the national main voice. We've not seen their voices. Now, him being targeted as a voice to one, even mentioned the issue of femicide issues, it is like a sense of the national statement. Like this Bakassi strategy, somebody will raise a voice. And we've seen the statement, the government spokesman. Isaac Mora has mentioned something. But in terms of the femicide, the government have been very quiet and very silent about it. So among us, the issues that we raised were, Kaidre, as the president, mentioned the issue of femicide. Make it as mention it as a subject of national disaster, so that 200 people being killed within 1 month, that is a recipe for national disaster issues. Let it be discussed even in the National Assembly. Allow it, even if it's not mentioned in the other paper, let it be brought on board that these are the emerging issues that are coming. We do not literally need to follow some protocol to discuss that issue.
You used to be, was it in the parliament or a leader in that statue? Is it?
Oh, I don't get you.
I'm asking you as just you used to be a leader?
Yes, I've been a leader for some time. Not intending to be elected, but I didn't go through.
So if you were in the parliament, How will this be raised? Because, I mean, we're having, even as a nominated MP, during the protests, we did see Nairobi woman representative, Esther Passaris, being, heckled at, and people asking, where were you? So this, I mean, this raises the question, and I'd love also CJ chime on the same. So people would now be asking, where have these leaders been? So is it now the role, and how much of a responsibility do the leaders really have on this?
Since these are now emerging issues that are coming up. Initially, there was never a follow-up towards them. Every Wednesday, when the House is in business, there's the private members' bills that are brought to the House, the floors of the House. Okay. And we presented now this one as a petition to be brought to business of the House so that it can be dealt with. So when we did that protest, that was one aim and bill that we decided, let's push this now to be discussed in the floor of the House. So that now even the male members of parliament can now embrace it. So that we also start from the systematic discussions flowing now from top, from the executive, from the legislature, even from the judiciary, so that everybody now takes up that space, so that the National Assembly can deal with it, the Senate can deal with it, even as the President is dealing with it.
Right.
Yes.
And so finally, CJ, before I really get your final thoughts, even as we talk about the role of men, so she rightfully puts it, there are men in the National Assembly, and rightfully so, they form a huge basis. And even in the demands, rights groups are talking about having the 2/3 gender role really being there and being stopped. So what's the role of men when it comes to leadership on this matter, in this conversation?
I think sometimes we are scared of stepping out because we probably have not done very well at a personal level. And so we don't want to raise a high pedestal because then we'll be judged against it. So sometimes then the men will go quiet because they may be complicit as well, either having threatened somebody somewhere, having treated them in a certain way, and especially those who have privilege, those who are in power and have privilege and have perks, they get away with a lot of things. So sometimes in private, they're complicit of some of these acts. So they may not really come out to talk about them because it may open up Pandora's box. And that's why I talked about the element of, us getting back into the space of families and communities, and then just having men who understand positive masculinity, that you're not defined by your muscle, you're not defined by your money, you're not defined by your power, you do not have to subdue anybody or subjugate them so that you feel powerful or strong, that you can have soft values and still be a strong man. You don't have to be violent. You don't have to be verbally, emotionally, mentally abusive or physically, in that matter, for you to feel powerful. That there are many ways of showing power. You can actually lead people either from the front, side, from the back, as long as you get them to where they need to get to. So when it comes to the top leadership, then probably we need to have conversations outside of the House, outside of the House as well, that when they come back into these spaces of their constituencies, can we stop always just talking about politics and the next election, and can we have meetings around communities, talk about issues that really touch on the people? Can we have those barazas? Can we have those social hall, city hall meetings, and just talk with people? Can we see very intentional mentorship? There's several groups, and I said I've been part of this men's mentorship things for long as well. But generally, people don't come into things until they feel that it is politically beneficial to them. And sometimes they also will come against anything that they think might turn into a political movement because they don't understand it. So if they think maybe this person is doing this because they want to vie for a post at some point, they will literally sabotage whatever you're doing because their imagination is that anybody who gathers people wants to run for office. So sometimes it becomes difficult to have social conversations, even at community level, because the first people who will sabotage that thing will be the leadership. They do not understand your intention. So instead of don't put, yeah, so they don't put in the energy. And when they come in, they want to probably run it, take it over for political purposes. Yeah. And you see, these things cut across political divide. And some of the people who would be affected have absolutely no care for politics at all. It's just, I have this young man that I want to raise. So can we also have, we've talked about for so long about the girl child, the deputy president's wife, Pastor Dorcas, has been talking about, the boy child. But can we see the intentionality around it? I actually feel a bit sad, and forgive me for saying this, I feel a bit sad that the agenda for the boy child is being run by a mother. I feel a bit sad about that. But this is generally the thing that has been happening to us, because most of the young men have actually been raised by their mothers. They've been raised by teachers who are female, the community leaders who are female, who cared about them, aunties, their mothers, their single mothers. So this agenda in itself, as much as it is good that Pastor Dorcas would want to push this agenda, I think it would have been better if there were men who were saying, we are going for the boy child. Yes.
Thank you. Your last words before I wrap it up with that.
Well, human life is human life. If you value human life, you won't take it, whether it is male or female, whether it is an old person or a child. We have to get back into the place where we value the things that are most important. And listen, no matter what you do to the other person, it will never satisfy the thing that actually drove you there. So if I hurt or kill this person, it will never satisfy the very driving force that pushed me into that. Right.
Just your final thoughts.
We identified hotspots for this violence. Mm-hmm. And even where it has been vocal, even to the point of it's a public discussion. Take a case of Meru, where we have the Kiveri movement. Mm-hmm. And even when it was deemed to be there last year, even today, as we discuss now, the Kiveri movement is still there. And that movement is out to antagonize women. Let it go to the public domain that any negativity that comes out of your mind, out of your mouth, will have a negative impact to the women of your community. It is important that we take leadership. We take, we become persons of integrity. The positions we hold, even if I hold a position as a mother, let me lead by example. Even for the political leaders, let them lead by example. Do not go and antagonize women, because they are only the lesser gender.
Right.
Embrace them as they your sisters.
Okay.
To my brothers from the Western Kenya, where CJ comes from, look at it in terms of the chicken. When we were doing that match, one lady brought up that issue, that even to the eating formula, you cannot eat because the men will dictate what you're going to eat. It becomes quite tricky. So to the communities who are antagonizing women, it is the high time that you stopped. To my brothers from Turkana, the pastoralists, the Turkana, the Saburu, stop marrying your daughters when they are at young age of 13, 11 up to 15. Around them, go to schools so that they can be educated.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Asanteni sana, quite informative, provocative, value-adding opinions from the both of you. Sijetemo Growth Coach, Joyce Wamahiu, National Chair, Amka Mama Association, also hoping to have Maureen Magak from Mombasa. Will be getting to hear her sentiments later on. These conversations definitely continue, even online. We were asking you, what do you think the government should do to curb the mysterious deaths of women in Kenya? Kevin says they should try and open more opportunities for women to keep them occupied, and just stating that a larger piece of women dying are those seeking money in their own desired way. That's according to Kevin. Those are his sentiments. Asanteni sana to the both of you, and also to you watching us this particular morning. Well, even as we are discussing matters, and also even crossing over to Embakasi as well. And it's a Friday.